The other day, we received an email at our property. It was from a prospective owner-client, and he said, "I'm thinking about hiring you to manage my rental property, but I'd like you to send me your management agreement, and I want to compare that agreement to some other companies in town to make a determination on who I want to hire to manage my property." And that's a good idea. Due diligence, because you as a property owner want to know who you're working with. Well, I'm Tucker Robbins with White Robbins Property Management. Let me share with you what I believe are the most important parts of a property management agreement that you as an owner want to review to make the determination on who you want to work with. And number one is this, in the order of importance. So most importantly, number one, I would say, how easy is it to get out of the agreement, to cancel that agreement? If there's nothing else you need to know to make your decision upon, this could be it. And you say, what difference does that make in how easy it is to cancel? Because at some point in time, you're going to walk away, you're going to want to walk away from that agreement. And if the property management company is doing a good job, I believe they should be earning your business every day. They shouldn't be handcuffing you to working with them and you can't leave. So if it's a 12-month agreement, is there something like a termination fee or a termination penalty? Because I don't believe there should be. It should ideally be you want a month-to-month agreement, meaning you can leave anytime you want. The day they stop satisfying you or the day they decide to sell, you can leave without termination fees or penalties. That to me is a very important part. If they believe in themselves, if they're doing a good job for you, then you should have the ability to walk away without fees or penalties. Number two, are the fees hidden? Of course, there's going to be some fees. You're going to have to pay that property management company to get service done, but where are those fees in the agreement? You see, fees that are transparent are going to be in one little section of the agreement, and it's going to list out what those fees and charges are versus a company, say, that's going to try to hide them and all over the agreement. And it talks about something over here, and then there's another fee hidden on page 17 in paragraph 5. That's a sign the company that you're working with may not be transparent. You want it broken down in a clear, concise section. Number three, was it approved by an attorney? Here's why that's important. Now, I see a lot of property management companies that just don't do this. So it's a good way. It's a good indicator on whether or not your property management company is in full compliance and are they operating under the law's requirements. So where is the section of the agreement that says, for example, it was reviewed by such and such a firm or whatever? Find out whether it has been reviewed. You may not be working with a company that's as professional as they should be. Number four, how much is the reserve? You see, when you work with a company and you sign the agreement, they're going to collect from you a reserve. A reserve is your money, but it goes into your account to fund that account and to pay for expenses that may be incurred every month between the time you get your rent and the time that rent comes in the following month. If something breaks and a repair has to be made, how does that get paid? If it gets paid out of your reserve. So how much is that reserve? And that's not a right or wrong, but make sure that you know what it is before you go into the relationship. Number five, how fast do you get your money? I've seen companies that will take rent from the tenant and they don't pay out until, for example, the following month. And who makes money decisions on the maintenance? Now, you don't want to be bothered for every little thing that happens. For example, if the toilet's leaking from the base, what you don't want is a property management company calling you and saying, hey, the toilet's leaking from the base. What do you think we should do? Well, I'll tell you what we should do. We need to fix the leak. So we're not going to call you in advance and say that, gosh, can we spend $85 to have the wax ring replaced? No, it's going to get done. It needs to get done quickly for the preservation of the property, for the safety of the property, and for the convenience of the tenant. But at what point are we going to involve you? And every company has a different threshold on that, and you don't want to be bothered all the time. So you don't want a company potentially spending your money that you're not made aware of. So make sure they're communicating with you effectively, and when appropriate, bringing you into the decision-making process on maintenance. Number 7 are the guarantees. If the property management places a tenant and the tenant has to be evicted, does the property management company step in and say, hey, we kind of messed up. We let somebody in that maybe I guess we shouldn't have because they're getting evicted. But sorry, Mr. Owner, now you're stuck with an attorney fee as well as rental income. So, for example, if we place a tenant and we have to evict that tenant because of non-payment of rent, we, White Robins Property Management, we paid the attorney fee on your behalf. Why? Because we want to step up. We have some skin in the game. We believe we have an obligation to place a good tenant. That doesn't happen all the time. Most of the time it does. We've got a very good screening process, but we're going to pay the attorney fee on your behalf, or we're going to handle it in-house. If we place a tenant and that tenant has a pet that we approve and that pet does damage above the amount of the deposit, we, White Robins Property Management, will pay up to $1,000 of that damage for you. Why? Because we believe we have an obligation to do so. So what are the guarantees, especially as it relates to things like pet damage and evictions? Because those are the two most scary, potentially unexpected costs you could be incurring as a landlord. So ask your property management company if they help out in either of those ways. And number 8, who handles evictions? There's a trend in the industry, a bad trend, that property management companies are becoming more and more lower levels of service. And if something goes wrong with what we're seeing, they just push the problem back on the owner. Well, sorry, Mr. Owner, the tenant didn't pay this rent. Here's an attorney we recommend. Good luck. Hope it works out for you. That's not a proper property management company. In our view, you want a company that's going to handle the problems. That's the reason you're hiring a property management company, is to fix the problems when they come up. So make sure the property management company is doing all of those things on your behalf and not having to make you take care of the problems that they may have created. If you pay attention to those things, those 8 things, you're going to be able to make a good decision. But here's the most important thing. The management agreement doesn't tell you. What doesn't it tell you? It doesn't measure things like integrity, things like honesty, professionalism, response, time. See, I recommend to owners that these are the things you really want to look at in making a decision, because of the fact in Delaware, the property management agreement has to be in writing, and most of them are reviewed by an attorney. What that means is 90% of our agreement is going to look like every other company in town, so it's hard to make a decision beyond the management agreements. Don't only look at the management agreement to make your decision. Look at things like, what's their reputation? Have there been complaints with the real estate commission? What is the average lease renewal rate of the company? What's their rent collection rate? How quickly do they respond? How long have they been in business? These are things that the management agreement isn't going to address. Our management agreement looks 90% exactly like the same as another company here in town, which I think does actually very bad service. You wouldn't know it from that. So don't look at the management agreement, look at these things as well. These are important, intangible things that are going to make the difference between a successful relationship and them doing a good job, making you a lot of money on your property, versus them doing a bad job and you thinking, oh, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have hired that company. If you got questions on that, we're happy to be a resource, whether you work with us or not. White Robins Property Management, reach out to us at whiterobins.com. We will provide any information we can to help you make your property a successful investment.